Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I remind everybody that, that this meeting is being filmed. Moving on to the next item, which is the minutes of the meetings that we had the 20th of November 2014 and the extraordinary meeting of the council held on 16th of January. Can I have a member to sign that? Do you have any apologies? Sorry about that. That's your throat.
Yes. Just before the loans start, I have apologies from Councillor Clark, Councillor Hawty, Councillor Gore, Councillor Haynes, Kate Haynes, Councillor Lee, Councillor Pitts, Councillor Ray, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Alison Swaddle, Councillor Tomlin and Councillor Eunice.
Do you have any declarations of interest, please? Councillor Town.
Thank you. Microphone. Thank you. I would like to declare my non-pecuniary interest that one of my daughters works for a company who undertakes promotional work for this authority on behalf of the town centre, Woking Town Centre Regeneration Project. That's my first point. My second point is through you, Chair, to invite David Choppy, Gary Cowes, Bob Pitts, Simon Weeks, Julian McGee Sumner, Anthony Pollock and David Lee to apologise to this council this evening for the failures to declare interest on numerous meetings. The members named, I have the dates and the venues when they did not make an apology. Rather than going through the formal process of reporting them, I would much rather they just stood up, acknowledged their mistake and just didn't do it again, Chair. Thank you.
Can you give us a clue?
Thank you. I think I'd like to have a carry on, please, if that's okay. Next, we move on to public question time. We're putting aside 30 minutes for that. And there will be supplementary questions allowed. And can I ask Clive Jones to ask his question, please?
Thank you very much. My question is for the leader of the council. Given the increasing level of risk associated with the council's finances, will you guarantee that all the savings in the budget are achievable?
Good evening, Clive. Good to see you. It would be extremely foolish of me to say that I can guarantee that every saving will be achieved and at the level stated. I don't think anyone could possibly do that, as many are by definition future events with unknown outcomes at this stage. What I can say, however, is that the year-on-year track record, we've continued to come up with substantial savings totaling 31.3 million over the last 5 years, and including 8.3 million for the coming year 2015-16. We do this by continually finding more efficient ways of delivering services and continually seeking more cost-effective solutions in what we do, whilst protecting our services valued by our residents. We have an extremely strong track record in delivering our savings year on year, which is borne out through our impressive financial management record and year-on-year financial year-end results. This shows we not only achieve our financial target, but often exceed them. It is this strong track record that enables the Council to have a robust, all-round financial position in times of austerity and cuts to our funding, whilst also achieving for this year a freeze in council tax. I believe we will rise to the financial challenges, including the efficiencies presented in the 15-16 budget, in the same way we have risen to the challenges presented in previous years, with sound, diligent financial management and effective financial controls.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Do you have a supplementary, please, Mr. Jones?
Yes, please. If the savings are not achieved, will you resign as leader of the council, or would you expect your executive member for finance to resign in your place?
Just as you.
Yes.
No.
Not wasting time.
Thank you. The next question is from Sean Hannah. Please, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question is for the Executive Member for Planning and Highways. I've looked at the medium-term financial plan for information about funding for the Winnersh Relief Road, half of which is to be funded by the Council. I've not found any reference to the Winnersh Relief Road at all, even in the section which refers to the vision for the next 10 years. Where in the medium-term financial plan is the Winnersh Relief Road and its funding shown?
Thank you, Mr. Hannah. Can you turn your... Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hannah. This is no doubt leads on from your question about the Winnersh Relief Road, which you asked at the last council meeting. And I do welcome the opportunity to update the council. As you kindly point out in the question, delivery of the Winnersh Relief Road is split into two sections. The section between Lower Early Way and King Street Lane, Phase 1, will be delivered by the developer of Hatch Farm Dairies. The building site, not the actual dairies, of course. The section between King Street Lane and Reading Road, Phase 2, will be delivered by the council. The council's 3-year capital programme and capital vision are only intended to represent what the council funds directly. This being the case, Phase 1 of the Winnersh Relief Road was not included as it's being delivered by the developer. But I think if you look in the vision, you'll find that Phase 2 is in there. We are currently in the process of commissioning the design work on Phase 2 of the road, and we would hope to have a planning application ready for some time in 2016. Delivery of Phase 2 of the road is expected to be in conjunction with Phase 1. However, that does not predicate the option of Phase 2 being delivered earlier, subject to it being funded.
Thank you, Councillor President. Mr. Hannah, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you. I think that you've answered my supplementary, which was exactly when the work was going to start on the planning and design, because presumably funding needs to be set aside for that in this year.
That's correct.
Councillor Cowles, do you wish to respond?
Yes, that's correct, actually.
Thank you. Moving on to item 65 now. I want to ask if anybody has got any wish to hand in a petition, please. Okay. Thank you very much. Can I now ask Mr. Jones and Mr. Hannah to join us in the viewing gallery if you wish to stay away. Thank you. Mayor's announcements, there's a couple of them. The Mayor has invited every councillor to join her worship on 21st of March at 7 p.m. in Martin and Cole Auction House in Milton Road, and I think you've all been sent a letter, so that'll be that. And the second one is the Mayor's Award January 2015 for services to school governance, and that goes to Barbara Teague. Barbara Teague started as a foundation governor at Arborfield and Newlands Junior School in 1989. She's been involved in the amalgamation of the Coombs and Arborfield and Newlands School to become an all-through primary called the Coombs CE Primary, and has been a very strong supporter and advocate of the school for the last 25 years. She's also been involved in several rounds of head teacher recruitments, and has worked tirelessly as governor and volunteered in the school. Barbara has also worked hard to keep her governance skills up to date by actively attending our training courses and briefings. Barbara retired at Christmas. That's congratulations to Barbara T. I understand now Councillor Ross has
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. First, on behalf of the Council, may I ask you to pass on my best wishes to the Mayor, who I understand undertook a procedure earlier today, and therefore couldn't be with us. More important, well, not more important, no, does he say that? I'll start again. When I was invited to Bali, I was overjoyed. But that was not the idyllic island, but the British Association of Landscape Industries and their annual awards, where our designer and architect for the Dinton Children's Play Area, Adam White, the constructors Davis White, and us, the client, were award winners, recognising very high levels of professionalism, workmanship and client satisfaction was on the citation. May I pass over the plaque, which was presented to us, and congratulate our officers who worked on this project. It was great to see so many residents enjoying the park, even this week, picnicking in February.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Yes. Yes, I will pass on your kind sentiments to the Mayor, and our thoughts are with us at the moment, and I wish upon her a very speedy recovery. Thank you. Now we move on to the medium-term financial plan and the associated reports. There will be a maximum of 1.5 hours to debate this item, and the group leaders are allowed to speak for up to 12 minutes each. So can I ask Councillor Baker to propose, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be speaking for 12 minutes. 22, actually. This is my first budget following the transfer of the leadership role from Councillor Lee to myself. Nothing prepares you for the complexities in setting a budget in such a difficult financial scenario. In keeping with a long-standing tradition, I am sure you will be familiar with the fact that Wokingham is the lowest funded authority in the country. Thank you. The officers and my fellow executive members have managed to work their magic for yet another year, which has resulted in a council tax freeze for next year. I would like to personally thank them all for their supreme efforts. As recent statistics have shown, wages are growing at a faster rate than inflation, and this freeze will mean a little less pressure on their disposable income. This budget is a great platform for increasing prosperity for residents, which will in turn contribute to the future of this borough. For some time, this council has had a clear vision, and that is to make our borough a great place to live and an even better place to do business. Core to that vision are a number of threads as follows. 1. To facilitate the regeneration of our towns and villages. This is witnessed by the first planning application for Peach Street. 2. Create an environment that allows businesses to thrive. This is occurring by the continuous development of key industrial areas like the Thames Valley Park or the part of Green Park that's got the windmill, which incidentally are actually in our borough and not in Reading. Number 3, continue to work with our partners to maintain our outstanding educational achievements, evidenced by improving grades and major building investments like Woolwich School. 4, deliver well-designed developments and strong communities. This is happening through a huge commitment to engagement with residents and their associated organisations. The SDL forums are extremely well established, and it is fantastic how local residents are keen to participate in them. it is amazing to see 100 to 200, sometimes even more, people regularly attending the Arborfield one, for example. 5. Ensure financial viability despite the annual funding cuts. No services have been cut whilst freezing council tax, and we have also frozen the precept support grant passed on to parish and town councils. And last, 6, invest in prevention services that maintain our residents' independence, as witnessed through our extensive involvement in the health and wellbeing agenda. Tonight you will hear from my fellow executives the details of what we have achieved and what we continue to do to ensure that we make our borough one of the best places to live in the country. All this has been done after making £8 million worth of savings and efficiencies this year, which over the last 5 years makes a total of £31 million of savings and efficiencies, all achieved without any cuts to services next year. I believe this is a strong testament to the ongoing efficiency and careful financial management of the Council by a committed Conservative administration and committed officers. But this is only talking about the revenue budget. Let me turn to the capital budget and see what capital investments are planned. Over the next 3 years, the plan is to invest £335 million. This clearly shows an ambition and determination to invest in the borough and to improve the lives of all in our community. This actually means an investment of £96 million for next year, which includes £27 million for children's services and £21 million for health and wellbeing. Both of these are well ahead of the investment for the town centre regeneration. We are investing in affordable housing, schools, extra care housing and other specialist housing for the needs of our community. We're investing in sustainable new communities with the infrastructure and amenities that they need to thrive, and we have stopped the majority of inappropriate backland developments. At this point, I would like to pay tribute to our enforcement officers, who have been outstanding over the last year. They have been consistently winning enforcement appeals and taking developers to both civil and criminal courts and gaining convictions. They have put a strong marker down to anyone who wishes to flout our policies and the law to say, we're not going to let you get away with such actions. My thanks also to all those ward members who have been actively involved in these actions. They have had a strong part to play as well. You will hear more about some of the specific projects from the relevant executive members later. Our Economic Development Officer has been very busy over this last year, continuing the programme started last year, where unemployed residents receive training to understand how to set up their own business. The aim is for them to become more independent and to realise their potential by taking control of their lives, rather than remaining dependent on unemployment benefits. These individuals will be the small businesses of tomorrow, and a few of them will become big businesses within the next decade. Their initiatives will not only help themselves, but ultimately become a gateway for others to get onto the employment ladder. We will continue to help our residents retain their independence through support to stay in their own homes instead of moving into residential care. The provision of excellent specialist housing for those with learning disabilities will give them homes for life in the community, which are near their family and friends. Our companies continue to stabilise and develop, with process changes already in place, including the additional constitutional reporting to Council, which we will debate under Agenda Item 71 later this evening. Prime example of success is Workingham Housing Limited, which will have investments of £12 million in each of the next 2 years, primarily for the development of the replacement for Eustace Crescent and Fosters and Woodley. This is indeed an ambitious, bold and achievable budget, but we owe it to our residents to invest in our community to help them steer out of financial difficulties to a more prosperous and brighter future. Each year is getting harder and harder to keep the council tax low, but we will continue to do this to the best of our ability. However, we are now moving into a political environment that has never been experienced before, with political uncertainty to the fore. Who knows what the landscape will be after May and the financial changes that may bring. I'd like to close by saying that we have the lowest known staff to residents ratio, which means we have really good productivity from our staff. We also have one of the highest tax collecting councils. All this on the back of being the lowest funded authority in the country. Thank you.
Councillor Baker, thank you. I believe you have a second, and Councillor Pollock, do you wish to speak now?
No, thank you. I will wait and hear the debate.
I'll ask Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Kruger, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead. Is everybody else on? Right, okay. Good evening, everybody. And I would like to say we do wish the Mayor a speedy recovery. I would like to start by thanking officers from all over the Council who have worked hard to supply the answers to the large number of detailed questions that we've been asking over the last 13 days. And the reason why all those detailed questions had to be asked in the last 13 days is how short a period we have had access to the budget papers. I think we heard Keith refer earlier to how difficult and complex it is to prepare a budget. Think how difficult and complex it is to try and assess what you've done in 13 days. We knew what the level of government grant was because that is a figure published in December. We were briefed in January on where the pressures are, and we also had an idea of some of the major building projects that are in the pipeline. But until 13 days ago, we had no access to any information whatsoever about how the administration is planning to spend the council's money for next April. Most other councils do not operate in this manner. As an example, in Reading, the council openly published possible budget options and their implications in detail as long ago as September. It is not just opposition councillors who are shut out of the process, so are the public. But, hallelujah, this may be the final year that this is the case. Because in answer to a question from Lindsay Ferris at the executive meeting earlier on today, we were told that there is going to be some sort of consultation and open discussion on the budget next year. So let's hope...
Excuse me. I didn't actually say, just for a point of clarification, I didn't actually say next year. Hopefully it will be next year, but there are a lot of things to discuss.
Sometime, oh dear, you've just spoiled my whole evening, Pete. I thought that finally we were going to get somewhere. Let's hope that it will be next year. Otherwise you'll be listening to me say this again. Okay? Let's hope that whatever engagement there is sensible and at the right level. A couple of days ago on Twitter, a Conservative councillor suggested that I was patronising for saying that some information about cost should be included in the Carnival Pool area consultation that's going on at the moment. On the contrary, it is patronising to believe that the public aren't capable of understanding figures, and well beyond patronising to consult the public as if they can have whatever they want, even when it may turn out to be unfundable pie in the sky. When you've only had the budget papers for a few days, it is extremely difficult to get fully to grips with what the administration has put in them. And that is probably the point. The Conservatives have traditionally looked on this budget meeting as some sort of political game, as how to disadvantage the opposition. The irony is that as revenue funding gets tighter and tighter, it is less and less in the Conservatives' own interests to keep the budget secret, because doing so means that everything in the budget is down to them. Not just the good things, supposing that there are some, but all the bad things too. Let's have a look at what is in the budget. One of the things is a long list of savings for next year, a list of over £8 million. Some are savings of hundreds of thousands of pounds on big ticket items such as adult social care and residential placements for children. But there is a very long tail that goes all the way down to things like £15,000 extra from car park charges at the country parks and £1,000 from library printing costs. Some of this long list of savings, both the big ones and the small ones, are going to be very hard to deliver. It is very unclear to us that they are all achievable. In the case of social care, it's not just we who have doubts. At last week's Health and Wellbeing Board, in the agenda was included the Council's response to an LGA survey on the Care Act. And in response to a question which says, How confident is your council there is sufficient money within its budget for implementation in 2015-16? The answer was not at all confident. Because we don't believe that all these savings are necessarily achievable, we do think that officers will try their best to deliver them, as they always do, and I would like to salute the officer corps who, as we said, are in the lowest funded unitary authority in the country, with the lowest ratio of staff to residents in the country, and are extremely under pressure, and we do wish them to know how much we appreciate the hard work they do for this council. But nevertheless, this is going to be a tough budget to deliver. We don't believe it's achievable, and we cannot support the revenue budget submission. The really disappointing thing for us is that this still looks like a budget based on shaving costs. Indeed, I think a couple of times Keith has referred to efficiencies already this evening. We thought that the Conservatives were beginning to understand that salami slicing services is unsustainable, because if you're salami slicing, eventually you run out of sausage. The council needs to think more radically, more sharing with other councils to save costs and provide resilience, delivering services in different ways through partnership working and use of technology. Wokingham Housing Limited has already been briefly referred to. It may be beginning to find its feet, although we still have some concerns. But otherwise, we can see few signs in this revenue budget of progress in the direction of the radical change that is needed. And again, Keith referred to the uncertainty, the political uncertainty. Nobody knows what's going to happen in May, or what colour of government we're going to have, or what, in fact, coalition government we might even have. It's going to be very tough. But we need to respond to that with radical change, not with more salami slicing. And then there's the capital programme. Specifically, I want to talk about the Wokingham Town Centre regeneration. This time last year, we were discussing a total cost of regeneration of 95 million, of which approximately 15 million had already been spent, leaving £81,901,000 to be spent. That is an exact figure, by the way, that I totted up from different elements published in last year's medium-term financial plan. 81,901,000. From looking at this year's figures, including the carry-forwards and what has been spent in the meantime, that 81,901,000, which was far too much already, has grown to a quite staggering 124,029,000. That's an increase of 42,128,000, or over 50%. I'll say that again, over 50%. The Wokingham Town Centre regeneration has become Frankenstein's monster, growing out of control. So much scrimping and saving in the service budgets, and yet caution has been thrown to the wind with regard to capital spend. Earlier on, I referred to being attacked on Twitter for suggesting the public should be informed of costs when being consulted on possibilities for the Carnival pool area. But it all becomes clear now, doesn't it? The Conservatives are way past caring about the cost of regeneration. They've started believing in the magic money tree. The latest idea is a boutique cinema on Elms Field. Lovely idea, commercially viable, who knows? The next thing you know, it'll be a branch of Harrods with a gold-plated statue of the burghers of Wokingham in front of it. Is there no one in the Conservative group who thinks it's time to get this back under control? Is there no one in the Conservative group who can engage sensibly with residents on what they actually want from their town? And is there no one in the Conservative group who cares about the way all the resources of the council are being sucked into this sprawling monster of a scheme, leaving the rest of the borough with nothing for the foreseeable future? No regeneration for any other towns and villages. Never mind what else is in the capital programme, there is no way on earth we are going to vote for a 50% increase in the cost of the regeneration of Wokingham Town. The capital programme needs a serious rethink.
Councillor Berry, thank you. Councillor Pollock, do you wish to speak now? Or?
Sorry, I'll listen to the debate and speak later. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I now ask members to see if they want to speak, please? Keep your hands up so we can take your names down. Can I start with Nikki Joe, please? Thank you.
Right.
Cheers buttons on.
It's not used to being on.
I understand that all councils, whatever their political makeup, are faced with tough decisions due to austerity measures forced upon them by the coalition. Ultimately, this is a matter of conscience for me. Some of these decisions decimate people's lives. I just want to give you one example. On page 56 of this document, home to school transport implementation of practice and policy changes. Some of you will remember Tracy Kerrison and her son Niall, who were featured in the local media last year. This short line in the financial plan affects their family. That transport didn't simply get Niall to and from school for 12 years. It enabled Tracy to get a job as a school receptionist, a job that she lost as a direct consequence of this decision, leaving her unemployed and solely dependent on state benefits. Tracy now receives income support. Niall is now on free school meals, and Tracy no longer has to pay council tax because she is on a low income. A cost saving in one department increases costs elsewhere. Quite aside from the financial impact, consider the impact on Tracy and Niall's social and emotional well-being as they both cope with the changes forced upon them. I don't mind my council tax paying for the discretionary taxi service Niall benefited from for almost his whole school life. I don't mind the extra freedom that afforded Tracy to have a job. I'd rather that than see it spent on over £100 million worth of interest in the next year alone from borrowing to fund the redevelopment of Wokingham Town Centre. And that is just one reason why I cannot vote in favour of this plan.
Can I ask that you don't refer to individuals in your speech, please?
Can I just say I did actually ask Tracy's permission. She's given me full permission to give all of those details.
Call on Councillor McGee-Sumner, please.
Thank you. I was hoping just to speak on sort of three good news items this evening. It appears that we are descending into a bit of politics, which isn't very appreciated by the public, I think. I'd like to report on Optimus to start with. Optimus is contributing £250,000 worth of efficiency savings to this council in next year's budget. This means that the council is able to reduce the contract fee paid to Optimus by £250,000, which makes it much more efficient. Whilst they are still providing the same level of service and the quality is maintained at the present level. This could have been shown as a company profit, but it was agreed that reducing the contract fee instead was the better alternative. Optimus has won over £300,000 worth of additional new business from two other local authorities within the last 12 months. This is money that goes to be reinvested for the benefit of our residents. And at the time, I seem to remember the colleagues on the opposition benches actually voted against Optivis. Had we not have actually set this company up, we'd actually be in the worst financial state.
No, point of order. Point of order, I think you'll find me abstained.
Nothing new there.
Yeah. Well, no, there's a difference. We didn't say no. You said we voted against. We did not. We've never had a problem with private, public-owned companies. The companies.
Why didn't you vote for it?
Then I stand corrected, but abstaining is the same as voting against. Okay, so we're doing this at the same time as being one of the lowest funded, or the lowest funded authority in England. We have to come up with these innovative areas to improve our funding for the benefit of our residents. I'd also like to mention two other areas of good news stories. The second one this evening is Foster's. We've actually arranged to have Foster's redeveloped to a 21st century property, and that will start shortly. And we'll also be building 120 affordable new properties, affordable housing within the next 18 months, which again is a good news story for the number of residents within our borough who are on our housing list. I'd now like to turn to the comment that Prue made earlier on about the LGA survey. She is right that we did actually, and a number of people voted that they weren't confident about the funding to go with the LGA survey relating to the Health and Wellbeing Board. But primarily, we've been borne out to be correct, that we thought we were not going to get enough money from the government to provide the services that we want, and that is being proven to be correct.
Thank you. Councillor Tom McCann, please.
Wanted to be next.
Thank you. In late May last year, I asked for a detailed breakdown on the actual budgeted money to be spent in Woodley on Woodley residents for 2014-15. The information provided by officers months later proved to be inaccurate and effectively rubbish. I asked again and insisted that they answer my questions properly and provide a detailed breakdown of how much money was actually going to be spent in Woodley on Woodley residents. Again, the officers tried to find ways around answering the question. They tried to add things into the answers that was nothing to do with the question. Eventually, I decided to ask the director himself to provide me with this information. He has proved to be just as not forthcoming as his team. So getting budget information isn't exactly easy around here. None of the information I asked for was confidential. All of it is available in the budget in outline terms, but the actual detailed information of what could or should be included needs to be worked out by the officers, and it takes time. So where am I to date? The shocking information is that this council underspends in Woodley. Some of you should be very surprised at that. I was surprised at just how much. In fact, this council spends only 2/3 of the money that it should be spending in Woodley on Woodley residents. That is shocking. Woodley residents total 15.4% of this community and the service users. They pay 14.6% in council tax, and they are not getting the services that they are being charged for and they are paying for. This is terrible. This is drastically not fair on the residents. Out of a revenue, grants and capital budget programmes of around £425 million a year, Woodley should be getting its fair share. This budget does nothing to change anything that has happened over the last 4 years. This budget is business as usual. This budget is rip-off Wokingham, ripping off the people of Woodley again. Woodley should be known as the most overcharged town in the borough.
Oh, it was.
Thank you.
Councillor, can I move on to Councillor Philip Murphy, please?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Members, just over 12 months ago, I took on the role of the executive member responsible for carrying out the regeneration of Wokingham Town. The previous joint plans for Peach Street and Elmsfield were withdrawn the previous December, and it was time to take stock. Many meetings were held with the architects, officers, Conservative members and key stakeholders in the town. We reviewed all the feedback from the previous consultations. Then we started out with a renewed vigour, absolutely convinced from the widest feedback we had received that the great majority wanted to see a vibrant town centre built, sustainable for many years to come, that provides its residents, both existing and new, to moving into the SDLs, an attractive place for shopping, with a difference that only a long-established charter market town can provide. Not generic UK, but a rebuilt and revitalised Wokingham Town. Yes, this has meant that we have needed to invest in the regeneration. Indeed, to go further than my predecessors in buying the estate from Rockmartin. We have not been afraid to buy elements of the town centre that have complemented our aims and objectives. Bushwalk was a prime example of this, a unique strip of shops right in the middle of our Peach Place planned development. It came on the market and positive quick action secured it for the borough. The immediate response was it grew in value by 10% over the price paid, and in addition providing a solid established income stream to combine with the rest of our fully occupied estate in the town. We've continued with this policy, securing niche locations within the town that complement our regeneration plans and add considerable ongoing value to the borough estate. We completed the redevelopment of what is now known as Silk Court at the end of last summer, and this now includes the new location for the Peach Street NHS dentist over Hoops. We listened to the public, we split the planning application, and we changed our application in line with the residents' comments and suggestions. We held 2 outdoor public information days showing those new proposals to our residents. We held key stakeholder meetings in a wide range of associations and societies, as well as the Town Council, the Lib Dems and school visits. The public saw their suggestions had been heard, they saw the positive changes for the better, and they told us they'd seen them. That application goes before the Planning Committee on the 4th of March. The momentum continues. Consultation on Carnival Field is now on until March 6th. We've had 2 very successful Meet the Public days in the marketplace and at the Carnival Pool itself. The public are very supportive of the proposals and keen to sign up for more information at our website, www.regenerationcompany.co.uk, and keen to know the facts and to add their suggestions. The multi-storey car park and the new indoor events area being very welcomed by most. Many have promised to send in their ideas for suggestions of what they want to see in the new leisure hub. No plans to slow down. We also launched our consultation on the new proposals for Elmsfield and the new town park, the new green lung for the town. This kicks off on March 9th, with us again seeing key stakeholders and public consultations as well. All this investment in Wokingham Town, when we've also frozen our preset. More value and opportunity for our residents once more. Who was it said it would never happen?
Councillor Lindsay Ferris, please.
Thank you. Firstly, well done, Keith, on your first speech. I am now going to be proposing an amendment, which Anne has, which will be passed around. We're prepared to give you a few minutes to comment. Have a read. I presume you're all happy for me to carry on now? Right. In all the time I have been a councillor on Wokingham Borough Council, both now and before, I've never seen such a chaotic, unsustainable and risky capital programme as that which is presented to us here tonight. All you need to do is Appendix B, page 48, and you'll see the figures. It is not the first year that gives us concern. but your future plans, if that is what I can call them. The capital programme, as presented, is pie in the sky. I do not know how anyone can put their name, not even Gordon Brown, to a programme which shows a £63 million hole in its funding. This shortfall represents some 40% of the total programme. We believe the programme is no more than a wish list of possible items without any clear way of delivering them, nothing more. Certainly not a future strategy, and most certainly not one worth presenting to this council. The only way you can achieve even
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's just clarification as to whether non-executive directors should declare an interest in this particular issue if we're going to review the capital strategy or discuss it.
Nice point.
Councillor Percy, may continue.
What's your answer? Is it yes or no?
The answer is no.
Right, okay. Thank you. The only way you can achieve even a part of this list of items is to borrow, and borrow big. Conservative councillors need to remember that any interest accruing from this borrowing may need to be covered by our local council taxpayers, i.e. our residents. The current level of borrowing is already forecast to rise to £37 per Band D council taxpayer per annum, and it can only rise and rise significantly if this programme is adopted. It also takes money out of the revenue, remember. This would mean residents who live in Remenham, Ruscombe, Twyford, Hurst, Earley, Woodley, Swallowfield and all points north, east, south and west of Borough would be contributing to this interest, often with little local benefit to themselves. This interest could easily reach £500, £600, £800 or even £1,000 for council taxpayer over the next 10 years. I am sure local residents would like to know this. If Wokingham Town Centre Regeneration Scheme was such an attractive offer, we would be inundated with property developers to get things moving. What appears to be happening is that Wokingham Borough Council is taking all the risks, or rather the residents are, and becoming a property developer in its own right. And perhaps we should rename the council Wokingham Borough Property Development Council. The Liberal Democrat group says no, no, no to this capital programme and asks for years 2 and 3 of the capital programme to be referred to scrutiny with the aim of presenting, or representing rather, a more viable scheme at the full council in July. Thank you.
Can I ask Tom Cannon to...
I'm quite happy to join the debate later.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak, please?
I don't think I've heard, sorry, so much tripe in a long time.
I didn't read so much. Didn't read so much tripe.
Yes, so probably I have. The capital programme is a consolidated programme of our main spending, our STL spending, everything we are looking that we need to do to build this community. The Treasury Management Strategy forms part of the capital programme and deals with the funding issues that are supported. There are issues with the future, but there always are issues with the future. You know, we sat in this council chamber for the last 20 years, we've bemoaned the fact that we have no ambition, that we don't spend the money dealing with the infrastructure issues. We've taken the brave purpose of putting STLs in place, going out, getting 106 agreements of £34,000 a house, and we have got plans to deal with the issues that are coming down the line. The Lib Dems want to bury their head in the sand. You can't not support the programme. You can't turn around and say, oh, go away the next couple of years and we'll come back in 6 months' time. The programme is there. Where's the funding going to come from? Some of it's already in the plan. The rest of it, it will evolve because we are able to find new sources of funding from government or from developers or from other sources, and we will adjust the capital programme according to the income. We always do that. Why are you so surprised about it? Please vote this down and let's get on with the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Pollock. Councillor McCann, please.
Well, I'm staggered that none of the Conservatives take part in this debate. But then again, I should never really be that surprised. The reason why I'm against this capital programme, I'm going to list you a couple of very simple reasons. In Woodley, half of the street lighting is 50 years old concrete street lighting that were put up when the houses were put up. Examples like...
We'll be spending £12 million in the capital programme on your street lamps.
Things like Penrose. The street hasn't been tarmacked for 30 years. Up and down, excuse me. If he wishes to intercept every time I start listening stuff, every time he opens his mouth, I will talk over him if he doesn't have the politeness to let me finish my speech. Thank you. I believe yours is on, sir. Stopping the speaking. Thank you for that. Penrose, like I said, hasn't been tarmacked in 30 years. Woodlands Avenue has 70 odd potholes in it. In fact, some of the potholes have been refilled. Sections of the highway are actually crumbling for hundreds of feet long on both sides. Coleman's Mill Road, exactly the same. Up and down the length and breadth of Woodley, this is the lack of investment that the capital programme is supposed to be investing in our community. You have singularly failed for the last 5 years to invest in the infrastructure of Woodley, and it's wrong. It is neither fair to charge your residents or expect them to pay for capital programmes that they are being denied, and you are denying the residents of Woodley their rights. Now, some of you may pop up and down and say, we are going to be doing X and Y. Let me give you an example of exactly how much money you spent in Woodley on the highways last year. £90,000 out of an almost £100 million capital programme. It is disgraceful. In Woodley, this council spent £3.1 million in total capital spend in Woodley on its residents, out of almost £100 million capital programme. Between 3 and 4% of your so-called capital programme is being spent on 15% of the community and the taxpayers. That's why I'm against it. I'm not bothered that you can't deliver in your own patches. I'm bothered you're not delivering in my patches and you're charging our people. It is disgraceful, and you should be ashamed of yourself, especially you Tory councillors who are elected in Woodley. Start standing up for the people of Woodley. Thank you.
Councillor Baker, do you wish...
If I may, Mayor, can somebody turn around? I won't start with the 6 million at Bournemouth, but that's what we spent at Bournemouth. Let me just tell you what we're going to do. We'll be spending money. We'll be 5 new roads, not just for Woodley. 5 new roads we're building in the borough between now and 2015.
None in Woodley.
Which will include the Winners Relief Road,
None in Woodley.
the South Woking Distributor. I'm
None
sorry,
in Woodley.
I'm a borough councillor. I'm responsible for the people of the borough. Okay? We will be spending overall £14 million on borough highway infrastructure and maintenance between now to
prove it. It's in your capital programme, there's no money being spent in Woodley.
Councillor Baker, do you have a...
I think I made my point, Chair. I wanted to get anyway.
When you speak on your own right, then please explain all this. So, but Councillor Baker, please, you have the right to reply. Whoops, thank you. I think it was Tom who said that Woodley was overtaxed or is overtaxed.
By the borough.
I would actually agree with him. Up until 2 years ago, when the Lib Dems controlled Woodley Town Council, they severely overtaxed residents. They didn't care about the residents at all. In 2 years of Conservative control, it was raised, I'm answering the question, sorry. In 2 years of Conservative control,
we've given them a total of 8% reduction in town council tax. And we, if we're re-elected, we'll do more. So yes, Tom, I agree with you that Woodley was overtaxed, but not by the borough, by the town. That's really all I was going to have to say. I think it's been a lively debate, a loud debate from certain individuals. I want to
I have a right to speak on the amendment as a second speech if I wish. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So I don't wish to...
No, that's fine.
If I may, just stop. I understand that Keith wants to sum up on the amendment.
Don't I have a right as proposed?
Of course you don't. No, sorry, I have to have one speech, but I get to speak on an amendment by another member, and it's going to be very short. We'll be very glad to know. I appreciate that John has a large list of things that he wishes to do. It's not entirely clear to me how he's going to pay for them. And all I would say to Keith, and what he's already said, is £50 a year in Woodley Town Council precept compared to £1,500 in Northern Borough Council. Slight difference.
It's 100. You left it up. Double it.
Whatever it is. £100 is still a small amount compared to £1,500 or more for your borough council tax. And you've left out all the things you've removed, like the borough council is now paying for Wilmarsh Leisure Centre instead of the town council, so obviously you can reduce the precept. But my real question is for Anthony, because Anthony, do you really think that something will turn up is a sensible strategy?
That's a load of tripe.
The issue is that every year, as you well know, government funding is for that year. And there are grants and there are amounts of money that are available that we bid for. We got some money in recent weeks for the secondary school at Arborfield. So yes, things do turn up. There will be a new government, there will be new opportunities, and there will be circumstances where we will be able to fund our programme.
But not in Woodley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The only comment I would make is that I listened to Councillor McCann, and it's quite interesting that if somebody interrupts him, he gets very, very angry and irate. But it's okay for him to interrupt everybody else. I would ask this council to remember that the last Lib Dem cabinet executive or cabinet member for finance was this Councillor McCann, who nearly bankrupted this council.
Sorry, I have to call.
Can I ask for the vote to the amendment, please? Thank you. All those for?
You're supposed to ask the person who proposed the motion to sum up, I believe.
No.
Don't you? My apologies, you're right the first time. Well, very good.
But we're voting for, yes?
We're voting for the amendment.
You're making sure that you get it right.
Thank you. Voting against?
Shame.
Any abstentions? We're back to the substantive debate again. Can I now ask Councillor Angus Ross, please, who wishes to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I want to present a year in 3 parts. And before I do, I'd just like to thank my deputy this year, Philip Molesworth, for his help in what we've achieved. First, I want to put it as a green year. During the year, around our strategic development locations, or SDLs, a number of additional country parks were identified and funded from Section 106. Some are open, more in this year to come. Also, as referred to earlier, Section 106 developer contributions enabled our very successful Dinton Children's Play area. We now have an operator to reopen the cafe at California Country Park, and thanks to him, we are seeing increasing numbers of visitors there. We are developing exciting plans for our residents at both Dinton and California Country Parks, and we're facilitating that through a joint cross-party working group. And by the way, Prue, yes, you're there? Hello, Prue, yes. Our very open consultation on Dinton is open for the purpose that we want all the ideas coming from everybody, whether they're achievable or not. It's then our responsibility to say what we can take up for them, looking at it both financially and environmentally.
But I didn't criticise your consultation.
You did at Earlsfield. Right. In our parks and open spaces, we've been working on the grass cutting regime, and we hope that should there be any unusual wet weather, we will be prioritising where we cut. And with that, we're also working much more with our towns and parishes. Secondly, I want to present it as an exercise year. Working with communities, we're bringing forward plans on sports facilities in our SDLs, and we've taken back Bournemouth Leisure Centre, and with One Life, our leisure partner, invested over £300,000 to improve the experience and add new facilities, including a gym, benefiting the residents of Woodley. And by the way, Whitegates. And also, of course, Bournemouth School, on top of the £6 million that we've invested there. The total investment in all our leisure centres, together with our partner, is over £1 million. And this is part where their increased use of these facilities brings in additional income to the council as well. We've been working with public health, where we're assisting much of our residents to get or to keep active. And this will give them and us and health huge dividends. Some examples: free holiday swimming for youngsters, avoiding the inability to work by getting fit, reducing chances of life-limiting illnesses, tackling obesity, attracting those previously housebound, to name but a few. We're in this for the long haul, but already benefits can be seen, such as the rehab gym that we have instituted for people with serious conditions at Northern Valley.
Councillor Ross, can I answer to that?
I've got 3 minutes. It
feels longer sometimes.
The third part was the environmentally earned, and I've spoken many times on the benefits there. So much has been achieved, but there's much to do. Thank you.
Councillor Ross, thank you. Can I ask now Councillor Beth Rowland, please?
Thank you very much, Chairman. I listened to Keith earlier on saying that wages are going up in the borough. I have to say that isn't what I'm seeing in my wages. I work with primary schools in Early and Reading on financial awareness, and I have to see the level of debt among residents of Buckingham Borough and Reading and other boroughs is going up. People are involved heavily with payday loans, they're involved with loan sharks, and I think this is a sign of what's going on in the country. Payday loans are a fairly new invention here, and Wonga is thriving. So your wages may be going up, but mine haven't, and neither have the wages or the pay of our residents who are living on benefits. We are seeing increased uses of food banks, we're seeing increased uses of charity shops. Not everyone in this borough is wealthy. But what I'd like to bring to your attention, members, is the risk register. The risk register was published as part of the audit minutes. I'm sure you've all read it. It's scintillating. No, perhaps that's not what I mean, but it is something that you need to be aware of. And the risks are that we won't be able to fulfil our needs, fulfil our promise and our duties to our residents, because, as Anthony says, the things that come along don't always. And so you need to be aware that in the budget that you have planned, there are risks. And you need to be very aware that those risks might come up and bite us, or by not allowing us to deliver your dream. I'd also like to ask Keith to speak about the contingency that's in the capital budget. There isn't very much to see, yet there is quite a big hole, or maybe it's Anthony, whoever deals with it. I don't mind, so long as somebody's aware that there is a big hole in the capital budget and it needs to be dealt with and provided for, as any good budgeter would. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Can I now call upon Councillor Haytham Taylor, please?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I wanted to just mention again Bullmarsh, which is in Woodley, and the £6 million investment has just been made into the school there. I think that Councillor McCann must have missed it, but certainly Madam Mayor did not miss it when she was dragged onto the stage for beauty school drama, which I think she enjoyed. Also, I just wanted to mention Councillor Jerome's point. If she would like to see me afterwards, perhaps, or also Judith, perhaps she could be filled in a little bit more about that case. I wanted to draw members' attention to page 61 and the 3 year savings. Whilst we may face challenges as a local authority, our officers have brought this year's budget forward as an excellent budget, and I commend this to members this evening. We're applying best practice in the way we are funding children's placements where there are health needs, and we have now secured appropriate contributions of $250,000 from our health partners. Children's Services have also secured funding from Public Health for work in children's centres and with children's and adolescents' mental health. These are just two good examples of how our officers are working together with partners through the new changes in health legislation. We're also testing our contracts for some of our most expensive placements to ensure we're getting the very best market rates. There will be no impact on children in these placements, and no children will be moved as a result of this. Prue mentioned we should be looking at sharing more services, and I just wanted to draw her attention to the fact that we've also joined recently in our adoption service with other local authorities nearby, and this is also making savings for us in this budget, as well as improving services. Now drawing your attention to the growth items on page 60, I just wanted to talk about the changing legislation which will bring savings for staying put. This allows young people to stay with their foster carers until their 21st birthday. This is excellent news for our care leavers, as it gives them the opportunity to spend more years being supported by their foster family in a familiar setting. This will enable them to gain further skills and confidence to become independent. And turning to our capital budget on page 42 and 43 in the main agenda, I wanted to remind members that our children and young people make up a quarter of our population in this borough, and I'm pleased to be standing here tonight to propose an investment of over £61 million in their future. Let me mention just a few of those excellent things that this money will fund. We will be able to open a brand new state-of-the-art secondary school, subject to planning consent, a £2.5 million investment in the Imbrook School, which will include a new English block, and we'll also be investing £1.1 million building a new supported accommodation for our children leaving care in order to help them on the journey to becoming independent. We'll also be investing £11 million in providing new school places across the borough, including new primary schools in the new SDLs, as well as build a new provision for our children with special educational needs, which will enable them to be educated closer to home and their families. Lastly, I draw members' attention to the MTFP and the key achievements in there on page 35. Thank you. I recommend this budget to the Council.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd-Dubé, please.
Over the next 3 years and beyond, as well as normal repair work on roads and on potholes, some of them large enough to need their own roads, by the way,